All right, let's talk about a book that, frankly, shouldn't even exist. We're diving into the only Roman novel that has survived completely intact from antiquity. And let me tell you, it's a story so strange, so chaotic, and so utterly bizarre that the only way to describe it is as a 2,000-year-old fever dream. This is The Golden Ass. Right from the get-go, the author, a guy named Apuleius, tells you this isn't going to be your typical story. He promises enjoyment and wonder, and boy, does he deliver. He's basically inviting us on a journey that's going to swing wildly from laugh-out-loud comedy to scenes of absolutely horrifying brutality, from absurd magic to a really profound spiritual awakening. He's not just telling a story, he's trying to pull you into a whole other world. So, our journey starts with our protagonist, a young man named Lucius. Now, on the surface, he's got it all figured out. He comes from a good family, he's well educated, and he's heading to a region called Thessaly on some business. But his real business? It's an obsession. An obsessive curiosity with magic and witchcraft. You see, he's heard that Thessaly is the cradle of magic arts, and he's determined to see it all for himself. And this curiosity, this burning need to see something new, is about to become his total undoing. What happens next is just a series of absolutely catastrophic decisions. Lucius isn't some innocent bystander. He actively hunts down the danger. He makes sure to arrange his lodging with a woman he knows is a powerful witch, a sorceress named Pamphile. Then he seduces her maid, Fotis, and it's not just for a good time. It's to get access to her mistress's secrets. And what's his ultimate goal in all of this? He wants to get his hands on a magic potion and experience the ultimate thrill, transforming into a bird. And this is where everything goes wrong in the most ridiculous way you can imagine. Lucius actually succeeds at first. He spies on Pamphile through a crack in the door, watches her rub some ointment on herself, and sees her transform into an owl and fly away. Absolutely thrilled, he begs Fotis to get him the exact same potion, but in her haste, maybe a little flustered, she grabs the wrong box from the storage chest. Lucius, completely ecstatic and totally unsuspecting, gets naked, shoves his hands into the ointment, and just slathers it all over himself. And this is the exact moment where the comedy just curdles into straight-up body horror. He's standing there, flopping his arms, waiting for feathers to sprout. But nothing. Instead, he feels his skin thicken, hardening into a tough, coarse hide. His fingers and his toes start to merge together, forming hooves. His face elongates into a snout, his ears grow long and furry, and from his lower back, a tail sprouts. In his desperate, misguided quest to fly, Lucius has turned himself into a donkey. Before Lucius can even begin to process this absolute disaster, things get so much worse. Fotis, totally horrified by what she's done, tells him there's a simple antidote. He just needs to eat some roses. Easy, right? But before she can go get any, bam! The house is stormed by a gang of robbers. They ransack the place, steal everything of value, and that includes the brand new brain donkey in the stable, and they just vanish into the night. Lucius is now trapped. He's trapped in this grotesque new body. This sets up the central torture of the entire story. You have to understand, inside, Lucius is still Lucius. He has all his memories, his intelligence, his completely human consciousness. He can observe the world, he can reason, he can feel horror and despair just like you or I. But on the outside, he's just an animal. He can't speak, so he can't explain what's happened to him. He is beaten, he is starved, and he is forced to see the world through the eyes of a worthless beast of burden. It's a prison of flesh and bone. And the world that he's forced to witness is nothing like the comfy, refined society that he came from. Apuleius paints this grimly realistic picture of what life was actually like out in the Roman provinces. It's basically a state of moral anarchy. Bandits rule the roads, and justice is something you take into your own hands, and it's usually violent. This isn't some fantasy world, it's a brutal, exaggerated look at the reality for a lot of people in the 2nd century Roman Empire. Now, as a donkey, Lucius is basically invisible. People say things and do things in front of him that they would never, ever reveal to another human being. He gets passed from one owner to the next, and each new master exposes him to a new level of human cruelty, greed, and depravity. He becomes our unfiltered lens into a world that, as the text says, is driven by deceit, spite, greed, and lust.
and the sheer brutality he sees is just staggering. In one of the many little stories embedded in the novel, Lucius has to watch the punishment given to a slave accused of adultery. The man is stripped naked, tied to a tree with a giant ant's nest in it, smeared all over with honey, and then just left there, to be slowly eaten alive by the ants over several days. This is the world Lucius lives in now, a world of casual, almost unimaginable cruelty.
His journey becomes this horrifying tour of society's absolute underbelly. He serves violent bandits who plot murders. He gets sold to a troupe of fanatical priests who whip themselves into a public frenzy and perform all these bizarre rituals. He's nearly worked to death by a cruel miller. He endures constant abuse from everyone, from soldiers to poor gardeners. Every new experience is a fresh new ordeal, another window into just how awful people can be. After what feels like an absolute eternity of suffering, Lucius finally manages to escape. He has survived beatings, starvation, and the constant fear of being killed. His final humiliation was being trained to perform in a truly depraved public show. He flees this fate, just runs for miles and miles, until he finally reaches the coast at a port called Cencrea. And here, on this empty beach, he hits rock bottom. He is completely alone, totally exhausted, and has absolutely zero hope left. He decides to purify himself in the sea, and then just prays to the full moon, begging, pleading with whatever divine power might be out there to listen and end his suffering. He pours his entire heart out and then just collapses into sleep on the sand. And in his dream, this majestic, unbelievably powerful goddess rises right out of the sea. She reveals herself to him not just as a god, but as the ultimate one, the mother of the entire universe, who's known by countless names across the world, but whose true name is Isis. She tells Lucius that his suffering is finally over, that by her divine power, the day of his salvation is here. Isis gives him very, very specific instructions. She tells him, tomorrow, there will be a festival in my honor. During the procession, my high priest will be carrying a garland of roses, the very antidote Lucius has been desperately searching for all this time. She tells him to approach the priest without any fear and simply eat the roses right out of his hand. And it happens exactly the way she said it would. The next day, Lucius joins the crowd. He walks up to the priest and he eats the sacred roses. And in an instant, his donkey form just melts away. The coarse hair, the hooves, the long snout, it all vanishes. And he's left standing there, naked, a man again, in front of a completely stunned crowd. Overwhelmed with gratitude, he's initiated into her cult and dedicates the rest of his life to serving the goddess who saved him, Isis. So at the end of it all, we're left with this huge question. Was this whole thing just a wildly imaginative, crazy story about a guy who makes a magical mistake, a sort of ancient road trip novel filled with sex and violence? Or was the entire brutal ordeal an allegory, a story about a human soul lost in worldly desires, suffering through this dark night, and only finding true salvation, only being truly reborn through divine grace and total submission to faith? Apuleius never gives us an easy answer. And maybe that's the true wonder he promised us at the very beginning.